Welcome to another episode of RalloTech Sports, Health, and Fitness Podcast. This is episode 12. Today is June 22nd, 2024, and I'm just gonna piggyback on my last one about having my son home since Father's Day or the day before Father's Day. And I'm just delighted to say it's been a week and I couldn't be more happy that my son is finally home with the rest of the Morris family, and it's just utter joy to know that my son came home after 8.5 weeks not being able to be on the farm, be around his siblings, and be around mom and dad without a nurse telling us that it's feed time. I have been really appreciative of having the nurse taking care of my son over the last 8.5 weeks, but I'm even more happy to say I am glad that we're home and we're able to get back in some type of routine, because it's hard to figure out stuff when you get back home and try to figure out, stuff that it's been 2 months. So it's been 2 months of not being home, not being able to sleep in your own bed, and it's just been different times where we wondering if this was a week that we are gonna go home. And even today, shout out to my sister Cartia. She said that she could hear the joy in my voice because I was joking around. I was able to laugh, and tease my older siblings and joke around more than I was able to in the last 8 weeks prior today. It's been 9 weeks as of today, but when I think back on it, it was hard for me to joke around or laugh or anything like that with anybody because it wasn't a time for joy. It was a time to take things one day at a time and focus on the future when my son comes home. And now that he's home, I'm thankful that I'm able to have joy and kind of peace in my spirit, because it was touch and go for the last little bit and I didn't know if I was going to ever be able to enjoy this space where I could say, you know what, my son is home, we're in our own space again, we're not sharing a space. And big shout out to the Ronald McDonald House, because it was bittersweet saying goodbye on Tuesday of this week, but you know that it's time to move forwards. And I think I met long lasting friends there where I can honestly say, I couldn't be more thankful for having those guys pour into me when I was at a low point in my life. And even though I had a smile on my face, I was still battling stuff where I can't let it conquer me. I just had to conquer every day and try to keep an upbeat spirit and be the stronghold for my family, because my wife was going through the motion, my kids were going through the motion as best as they could handle it. But I'm thankful that on the other side of this, we can have joy and laughter and think back on it and say, you know what, it was a stressful moment, but we endure, we persevere through it. And it's funny when you pray for wisdom and perseverance and God kind of give you these challenges to see, oh, you really want to persevere through hardship? Here's a challenge. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't have it any other way, because it's a testament to say, you know what, I've been through a lot of struggles over the last 2 months, and only the mercy of God why I could get through it, and having good people that God placed in your life on purpose, because you never know why people are placed in your life, but people are placed in your life on purpose for different reasons, and you just have to be thankful that those people are standing by your side while you're going through your struggles, going through your storm. And then on the other side of it, you make sure that you give back a piece of your joy to them, because you never know down the road they're going to pass it on and create that chain reaction of paying it forward. You know what I mean? And it's just God blessing sometimes why people that I've met even over the last 8 weeks have been very supportive, very helpful in ways that they can, because people that I met at the Ronald McDonald House, it was their struggle that they're going through, but they're handling it the best way they can. And you can't tell them the best way for them to handle stuff because you don't know what their situation is. So, as I said, I butcher it a whole lot over the last couple minutes here, but I'm just thankful that I met those people. In a nutshell, those people have impacted my life in positive way. And, I'm really hoping to reconnect with them now that I'm home and invite them to my home so they can see, where my kids get the joy and the laughter and the outgoingness, and maybe we can feed some of that into them so they can take it back to their own place of living, because you never know, you can be infectious to somebody when it comes on to sharing that joy that people need in this time. There's a lot of suffering, there's a lot of hardship going on, but if you can pour even a little bit of joy into people, it helps. It really do, because you never know who along your life journey you're gonna change your life so the worst of the worst don't happen. You see them on the news that they commit some tragedy and leave their family in peril. So I can honestly say I've 100% appreciate everybody I've met in Calgary, not just at the Ronald McDonald House, but even at the hospital that my son was staying at, both the Foothills Hospital and Rocky View. I gotta give you guys a shout out, because you guys saved my son's life, saved my wife's life, and I'll ever be thankful and grateful that I was able to bring them home. So, my gratitude goes out to you guys. Keep doing what you're doing. You've been providing that type of health care for a lot of people, not just myself, but I'm gonna show the gratitude, what I've experienced. And to be honest with you, for me not to go stir crazy, just a little snippet of the journey that I've been on. So since April 17, we rushed down to the Foothills Hospital for an emergency C-section with my wife and my son. That didn't happen until the 19th. On the 25th of April, my wife was finally discharged from the hospital, thinking that, yes, we're on the other side of giving birth. Our son will be in the NICU for a couple weeks and then we'll get to go home. But life always have those surprises for you. Fast forward into the first week of May, actually, when we got checked into the Ronald McDonald House. The day of discharge, we got checked in, so on the 25th of April. Second or third week, I think, when we're there, we're thinking that we should, my idea anyways was to call the Red Deer NICU and see if they can fit us in. To my surprise, they're over capacity, meaning that they can't fit us in because there is not enough bed for the amount of people waiting for bed. Week 4 to 5 was actually in week 2 to 3 is when we got moved to Rocky View. The second week, Zane was in the hospital. He got moved from one hospital NICU to the other one, and that was very stressful because whenever they get moved at such a tender age, they have setbacks. And the little setback that he had was, and it's a little setback because I was more worried that it would be more severe, but it was, he lost a few pounds and then he was back on CPAP. That would mean there's oxygen for him to develop his lungs. So he got a little setback there where he had to go back on CPAP. And to my understanding, I thought CPAP mean that he's regressing instead of progressing. So I said, you know what, maybe it wasn't a good idea to move him. And then and there, when the nurses at the Rocky View in week 2 and 3 could see my frustration, they're asking me if I needed to see a psychologist because they know it's very stressful for folks going through these situations. I'm going to pause here because there's something that was sitting on my spirit when she said that. For the audience that's listening, for anybody that's listening, let me tell you, anybody that tells you that they have life on easy mode is a lie. It's a fallacy. Nothing in this life is easy. And I've realized this over the last, I would say 20 years of being an adult. I've realized this wholeheartedly that Nobody in this world that even pretends like they have life on easy mode, they don't have a life on easy mode. Even the rich of the rich have their own struggles that they have to go through. So when somebody's going to lie to your face and say, oh, life is so easy for me, I wake up every day and I do what I want, and XYZ, I don't have a chick or a child, or whatever their reason might be to live that fallacy that they have life on easy mode. Let me give you a reality check. Life comes with its own struggles. And it's not just because I had a baby prematurely born in the hospital. I just know that life is not a bed of roses, as we call it in Jamaica, right? It's not a bed of roses that you just go and pick a rose and it makes everything better. Life always has its own struggles that you have to go through. So, with that being said, you have to be able to embrace the chaos of life. And with my type of therapy, I think, is I pray and I go deeper in my prayer. That's for me personally. Whoever don't believe in that stuff, good on you. But me personally, I go deep in prayer. Ask the Lord for guidance in this time. If it's something that I've never endured before, ask for guidance and wisdom in this time so I can persevere through whatever I'm facing at the time. With difficulties, it comes, it almost builds like an immunity to you spot those difficulties coming from a mile away, so you're not shy to take on the challenge. And for me, I might have not grown up in the worst parts of growing up in Jamaica, but I've seen struggles that people go through. I've been in the ghettos. I've lived in the ghettos in Montego Bay, in where I reside when I was a kid. And I've seen where people that don't have it easy still make it work. They find a way to make it work. And for whoever, as I said, this is not just for the physical fitness of this podcast, it's also for the mental health. And I know the last couple episodes I've been diving deeper into the mental health side of things. Whenever you have struggles, there is always a way to deal with it, right? If you don't have the right support system around you, it makes it difficult. I know that firsthand. For me, I do have the right support system around me. When I was younger, that was my relatives, like sisters, brothers, sometimes cousins, sometimes close friends, close relatives, XYZ. I didn't need therapy in the past because I had people that would pour into my cup when my cup was empty. Now I have my wife, and if my wife is not there, I have other people I can call. If I really need to see a therapist, as I was saying, I am not advising you not to see one. If it's something that you need to work out with a therapist, please do, for the betterment of your health, so you don't fall into depression, right? But as I said, for me, I've never considered my life being on easy mode. And when I find struggles where I feel like I'm stuck, I pivot and find another way. And that came with growth, that came with self-improvement, that came with a lot of soul searching, in other words, to see how I can better myself. And of course, I reach out to God for guidance and go to Him in prayer. There's times when I'm in Calgary, I said to my wife, I need to head home to the house, because I can even call it my home, but to the house, to the Ronald McDonald house, so I can go sit in silence and pray. Like I remember a couple weeks ago, I took the shuttle ride home and left my wife with the vehicle that we had. And I went home to the house and literally turned all the lights off. I had the Bible app going on my phone. I turned that down and I started praying in darkness. It's almost like I'm meditating in my prayer. I was praying, asking God for guidance, praying for even others outside of my situation that I was in, because I find that you can't be selfish sometimes when you pray. Sometimes you have to pray for others, not just yourself. And I went deeper and deeper in prayer. So needless to say, I didn't need a therapist at the time when I was going through my struggles, being down in the NICU in Rocky View and Foothills, and coming out just before Father's Day. And to my surprise, I find that it works because it teaches me to be humble, not to rush the process of what we're going through, because my son needed that process to get better, in the sense that his lung developed because he's prematurely born, and get to a point where we're glad that he's home, and we make sure that we give him all the love. Even the love that he thinks he does need, he's still gonna get those type of love from mom and dad and his brothers and sisters. His brother and sisters. So needless to say, I declined the offer of seeing a psychologist in regards to my son being in the NICU because I didn't think it was needed. And furthermore, I have the best therapist that ever exists, and which is God Almighty Himself. And when I pray to Him, I get an answer. Sometimes it's not a verbal answer, but it's an answer through action. And for me, one of the things that I realized that helped me, sitting still and stewing in my situation that I was going through, after my wife gave birth, I was back and forth from one room to the other just to make sure that both mom and baby was okay. And it was after like 8-9 hours I realized mom came out of it, and mom was doing okay, baby was doing okay, and I paced back and forth until they're both okay. One of my other therapies that I realized helped me was to walk the stairwell of both hospital. I've done 12 floors at the foothills. I've done 10 and a half, maybe 11 stairs at the Rocky View. And sometimes that's 3-4 times a day. I try to walk the stairs, catch my breath, walk up to the roof, walk down back, walk up to the roof, walk down back. And that was my physical therapy. When, I feel like I can't sit still, I go for a walk. So needless to say, in a nutshell, I find ways to get over the anxiety of being in the hospital. Yes, I do feel anxiety, no doubt. But I try my very best to don't let it creep in. I try to do stuff physically so I don't have to sit there and stew in what's going on. Because we all need some type of outlet, and my outlet was to go walk the stairwell. Needless to say, that helped me 100%, because when the kids come down on the weekend, this started in week 4, which we're already at the Ronald McDonald House and we're settled. Week 4 going on to 5. I remember the one day, which was a video podcast of mine. I had the kids at the park for 5.5 hours, maybe just over 5. I would say 5.5 on the maximum side, maybe 5.25. But I do stuff physical, so the kids don't have to sit in the hospital and read a book or color the same crayon book 1,000 times. I took them out and I did, whether it's a skate park, pump track in the last couple of weeks of us coming home, and give them the opportunity to do something physical instead of sitting there and feeling like they're bored. Because many a times they told me how bored they are. I'm like, okay, you're bored? Let's go walk the stairwell. And I took them and walked the stairwell with them, all the way to the top, all the way to the bottom, all the way to the top, just for them to do something physical. So by the time we get back to the house, it's bed. They're just tired and they want to go to bed because their legs are exhausted, their body is exhausted, because I put the work in to make sure that my kids are not sitting there thinking that, oh, mommy and daddy's in a bad situation right now, and we're going to worry for them because they don't want to speak about what's going on. We try to be as transparent as possible to our kids because we don't want them to think that they need to carry the load. They need to be kids. And one thing I have learned, even being a coach and a referee of basketball, kids need play. Whatever form that takes, they need play. They need to play, they need to laugh, they need to giggle. Sometimes they need a good tickle. They need to play. They need to do something to get them in a good spirit instead of just sulking, feeling depressed, because kids can feed off parents' depression. So I try not to put that into my kids' psyche, because you don't want them to come up and rely on popping pills or stuff like that because they're depressed. There's other ways to deal with your depression if you even feel depressed. Full disclosure, I have seen a therapist in the past because I was going through the struggle of losing my dad. So I had the experience of seeing a therapist. But at the end of the day, as I said, I had good surrounding, good support system around me. So I didn't need to rely on that after my session was over. And it was first time experience, and I really appreciate everything that the therapists have done for me. But for me, I'm always self-motivated. And if I need to see a therapist because it's more than I can handle, I go into my faith, I go into prayer, and I pray for things that I don't understand. I pray to understand them and pray for wisdom and understanding to get past through the psyche, to say, you know what, Lord, come to you humbly. I don't understand what's going on. I ask for your wisdom and guidance in this time. And I ask for perseverance to get through this, and the strength and the willpower to get through it. So I literally utter a word of prayer so I can get through whatever I'm going through. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm perfect, because I know I'm not. And there's a lot of things I need to work on. Still need to work on. But like I said to my cousin recently, I said a good book that I have listened to in the past as an audiobook was You Can't Hurt Me, and listen to other people's issues that they've been through, and they overcome it because they didn't just buckled. They doubled down on working hard to get out of the funk and better their life, better their mindset first, then better their physical appearance, and better their life overall. To the point, if anybody knows who I'm talking about, he was reckoned as one of the strongest men in the world, or the toughest man in the world, because he's been through so much. And that person is David Goggins. Yes, he's rough around the edges, but there's always a reason why people go down that path, because it's like there's things that they've endured and they had to go through to feel as if they're going to be successful at whatever they're doing. So you have to give those people credit, because guess what? Those people inspire me. So I can honestly say, if it wasn't for their battle that they've faced, and they can put it in a book format, I wouldn't be here talking to you guys today, because I've built my own mental toughness, and I find I can pass on that knowledge that I've learned and explain to people, this worked for me. Maybe if you take a shot at it, it might work for you. So for me personally, I pass on knowledge that I've learned, and I've give it to other people and say, hey, this is what worked for me in the past. And it was baby step until it was micro steps that I've taken to the point where if I need to, and I need to fall back on some of those things that I've learned in the past, I can give somebody a blueprint for what works for me. Everything that works for me doesn't work for everybody else. So I pass on those knowledge to people so they can get the feedback they need and get the validation of saying, hey, if this works for him, if I try it, what's the harm in trying something to better my life? And even today, I have to say I had to sit down and have a reason with my cousin, and I said, hey, this is what I know worked for me, and if this works for you, great. And it's funny because I realize more and more I feel more like a magnet when it comes on to certain things, because I've reached out to cousins in the States as well, and I said, hey, what if we sit down and brainstorm some things, because I really want this to be a family event when it comes on to bettering our life, because we never learned this as a kid. And it's sad that it's adult age you're learning this. So I want to pass on that knowledge as much as possible. Another good news I had that I wanted to kind of end on a happy note. I haven't refereed a basketball game in months. And, thinking about the invite that I got on, I think it was either Wednesday about coming to referee a basketball game. I had doubts at first because I was like, I'm still going through my stuff, and I didn't want to, go with a clouded mind to go referee a basketball game. But once the person said, yeah, we're refereeing for youths, and I remember I used to coach said youths before I went through my storm with my dad when my dad passed away, I literally said, you know what, I'm going to do it, because in the interim that my son or my daughter wants to play basketball or play any sports, I want to be there on the sideline cheering them on, letting them know Dad is in your corner. Keep going. Don't give up now. Just keep pushing through. Keep persevering through, because on the other side of that coin, you will be stronger, mentally tougher for anything you should face. And that's why I said, for me, I find my passion is using sports to connect people. That's where I find my passion. And I even said to my daughter, I sat down and talked to her a couple days before my son came home. I said, look, It might not seem like we're winning right now, but it takes a team of people to go through what we've gone through. It takes a village to raise, and that phrase that it takes a village to raise a child, it's no joke. And I'm so happy that we have good people around us that believe in what we believe in and believe in, things that we've put out there to say, hey, this is what we're doing. It would be nice if you guys can come on this crazy journey. And people have sewed into us. People have provided for us. And big shout out to DT Lead for inviting me to come referee today. It was a huge help to build my morale back into the love for basketball, because I watched these young ladies fight tooth and nail. I refereed, I think, 5 games today. And no word of a lie, I have to go stretch now because I'm just refereeing. I wasn't playing. And I'm sore from running back and forth with those girls, because guess what? It takes the endurance of you training your body for these events. And thankfully, I was able to go for a run last week, because for me, that physical aspect of things helped me build the mental toughness that I have. I put on some motivational, I think it's daily motivation on Spotify. I put on and I go for a good 3 or 4 or 5K run just to lift my spirit, because this week, trust me, from Saturday last week until now, I've been running on 3 to 4 hours sleep, because I just can't sleep knowing that my son was in the hospital. This week that he's home, I'm worried that I have to get this done, I have to get that done, and I have to do a long laundry list of stuff that I need to get done since I've been back. But just like what I did when I was in Calgary, I'm taking stuff one step at a time. If my wife needs help with anything, I try to help her and still hold on the home front, still do cleaning around the house, and still try to make sure the kids pack up after themselves, clean up after themselves, pack up stuff that they played with, so the house don't look like a mess if somebody comes over, because these kids, you love them, but they know how to make a mess. So on the fact that I was able to do all of that today, I am so thankful that I have a loving wife that supports me in whatever I'm doing. I have kids that adore me and see that I'm trying to do the best for them, and that is living a family first life, because many times I think to myself, man, I'm failing, I'm not providing for them. But I can tell you this, and I said this to somebody, and I'm going to say this to the audience as well. Be around your kids if you're a dad or a mom. Be around your kids. Your child don't care, and hear me clearly, your child don't care how much money you make per hour. What your child need is you. They need to cuddle with you some nights. They need to laugh with you some nights. They need to go for a walk. They need you to watch them do the same trick or something on the playground 100 times. And if it's 101, you watch those kids, because guess what? It leaves an impression on them, and it gives them confidence that mom and dad cares what I am doing. They care to pay attention to me. And I've seen it in my own kids' eyes, where I show up unexpectedly and it brings joy to their soul. Perfect example, Thursday was our last appointment in Calgary. Thank God. I love that I was down there for 8 weeks, but I was just done being down there. I was supposed to bring a Jamaican meal to my daughter's class. It was a potluck. And how tired my brain was, I just forgot to do it. So I stayed up Thursday night after I got back from my appointment, cooked some festival and brown stew chicken for all my Jamaican audience. You know what I talk about. It was delicious. I brought some to my kids, my daughter's class, and her reaction to mom was, Daddy and Mommy, my friend cleaned even the crumbs out of the dish and the plate because it was so delicious. And her comment was, I wish I live at your parents' house because your dad is such a great cook. I think I'm an average cook, and that's just being humble. But when she said that, and the joy I saw on her face before I actually showed up, I called her teacher and I said, you know what? I felt like I failed bringing stuff yesterday. I'm going to bring some stuff today for Arian. I know the kids are probably going for lunch, and I use my lunch break to bring them some food. And then on Tuesday coming, I'm going to try to do the same thing. I'm going to use my lunch break, if I can, and bring them some food again so they can enjoy a nice cooked meal. And as I said, I don't think I'm a great, awesome cook. I take myself as average. And that shout out to my sisters, shout out to my brother. Even though I'm a better cook than him right now, he won't admit it. And shout out to my mom and my dad, because I can tell you that without them, I wouldn't be the type of person that loves to cook home cuisines and Jamaican cuisines like what I do right now. And I must say, I don't want to call your name, but I met a couple from the Hutterite colony, and I got some great news from them today that they had a boy. And I've made plans with them before I left the Ronald McDonald House that I'm going to go visit their colony, because like I said, I met long-lasting friends. And shout out to those guys, because I was very impressed how much I've made an impression on them, and also became friends with them because they see me cooking and they came over and they talked to me and asked what am I cooking, and I was open enough to tell them what I'm cooking, and they're like, oh, it smells good. I'm like, thank you. But I was humble enough to say, you know what, I don't think that I'm the greatest cook in the world, but to be honest with you, I'm happy that I can. My mom always says this: use your hand to make fashion. Whatever you have, you can always make a meal instead of go buy meal or buy food out there, because I always find that a home cooked meal, I call it soul food, is always better than fast food. So on that note, I'm going to I'm going to end the podcast here, and I'm going to say be blessed again. And just know that you were made in God's image. You were made uniquely, and not by a mistake. I think the phrase that I'm looking for is called, you were purposely made in God's image and likeness, and you were never a mistake. So take that for what it's worth. Know that I'll always try to send love and motivation and God blessing your way. And I hope everybody has a nice week for the last week of June. And just please, whatever you do, don't feel as if you're doing this alone. Always reach out to people that have your back and people that will love you and respect you for the person you are, because we all have our struggles. We all have our battles to face, and I hope everybody get a chance to go through it and ask for help if you need it, and just give thanks that we have breath in our body and we have people that love us in our life. And with that being said, Rallo out.